On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder cruise to a Game 2 win in Summer League.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member, and inside the Thunder beat writer Thunder on SI, Ryland Styles. Follow me on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the Oklahoma City Thunder getting a Game 2 win in the Salt Lake City Summer League. Second game in as many nights, the third on tap tonight in Salt Lake City. Ousmane Dieng bounces back in a big way. Dillon Jones shows that edge that he brings to the table, and the maturity of drafting two older prospects is showing off, and it's going to pay off for the Oklahoma City Thunder, all as we recap Game 2 at Summer League ahead of what's going to be a very fun day for the Thunder and preview what's on tap for Wednesday. Today's show, of course, is brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. Check it out today. Game Time is awesome. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase over there at Game Time. So the Thunder play their second straight Summer League contest, and this time it's against the host Utah Jazz. So they get to play in the nightcap of the doubleheader. This game was an awkward one because Keontae George doesn't play, Taylor Hendricks doesn't play, Walker Kessler doesn't play. So the Jazz were managing, their roster a little bit. Isaiah Conley only played 13 minutes in this one to manage their roster. Bryce Sensabaugh played 15 minutes to massage a 3 games in as many nights stint. The Thunder, on the other hand, did not play Keontae Johnson due to rest. But other than that, they just kind of rolled the ball out there with their same group. This could be setting the stage for the Thunder resting tomorrow, or maybe they're going to play all their guys in Game 3. We'll talk about that more later on. But when you look at what Summer League is, it takes a level of, you can't just throw everything out and say none of it matters. You also can't overreact. You've really got to take it in a case-by-case, possession-by-possession, situation. First and foremost, when you're watching Summer League, with respect to every other player on the roster, this roster consists of 3 guys who without a shadow of a doubt, like the Thunder are trying to develop and trying to make a part of their NBA future. And those 3 guys are Ousmane Dieng, Dillon Jones, and Ajay Mitchell. A lottery pick in Dieng, a guy that you traded 5 second-round picks for to get in the first round, Dillon Jones, and a guy who you made a spider web of trades to go get in Ajay Mitchell. Now there's other names that deserve to be talked about. We'll talk about them as well. Kyler Kelly, who is stellar, in this one, and it's stellar in general with the G League, and was huge for the Celtics to really dominate the Eastern Conference. Adam Flagler, huge for the Blue last year to get to the NBA G League Finals, is going to have potential as long as that shot continues to fall, as it fell at a 40% clip last year, and is on a 2-way deal, so that's massive. But those 3 guys are who take precedent. And those 3 guys are who the headlines will be created about for as long as they're playing in Summer League. And you couldn't have asked for a better night. So, whenever you look at those 3 guys, regardless of what the scoreboard says, their individual performances and how they function in the game will be taken, more than the scoreboard. But they vastly contributed to the 98-75 win. For starters, we'll talk about Ousmane Dieng, who has been the toast of the week. Right? The Thunder announced their Summer League roster on Sunday. Many use that as a barometer of bashing Ousmane Dieng for playing in his 3rd straight summer. Then last night, he reverted back to some old habits in Game 1 of Summer League, where he was timid and he didn't have that chutzpah. He didn't have that je ne sais quoi on the court. He didn't want to be in the mix offensively. He played kind of Olay defense a little bit at times. But he got back on track in Game 2. And we mentioned you know, in our preview podcast about how he's made all these strides, but it happened in the invisible league. It happened in an area where, you're not really seeing it, right? Most people are not paying attention to the G League. And then to come in game one and look a lot closer to the last time people watched Ousmane Dieng, it was going to create this massive, conversation. And it was going to create this sense of like, well, nothing's changed. But it shouldn't have wiped out a whole year of progress. What we talked about in yesterday's show. On today's show, we saw that it didn't wipe out the whole year of progress. What was he doing in this game? He was really mixing it up defensively, staying in front of guys, using his frame well, diving on the floor, doing all those things. Offensively, he did a much better job of looking comfortable on that end. He pulled off his Euro step. He pulled off putting a chest on guys at the rim, using that high gather mini Euro step to get to the basket, which is a move that he goes to just almost every time down the floor in the G League. It's a go-to move for him. He shot the ball really well, 4 for 8. And we mentioned how yesterday had a few more of those bounces gone his way where he was missing short in game one. It wouldn't have felt as dire as it felt for most of you, even in game one. So you saw the 4 for 6 in this one from 3, and that kind of changes the outlook of the whole game where he puts up 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a block, and a steal. But as we mentioned yesterday, the truth was in the middle. The truth was also in the middle again today, where it's like, yeah, he didn't perform, to his capabilities in game one. And in game two, what you saw from him was way better. Even his misses were way better because you look at like 2 of those misses were just absolute denials by Darius Bazley at the rim. But it's sort of, like whenever you talk about Chet Holmgren, you talk about how like these shot blockers, you've got to put yourself in position to get blocks and to challenge shots. And that's what rewards you with the opportunity to rack up 7 block games. But on the flip side of that, you're also going to get dunked on. You're also going to be in somebody's poster. And so, you kind of balance those two things and now flip it to Dieng of like, you're 6'11". You're going to end up eventually, even though you went over 2 tonight in this scenario, eventually you're going to end up having some massive slams, having some great rim finishes. Because we saw him do it at the G League level last season, where he shot really well from the rim and had a career high in dunks in the G League last year. But you've got to give yourself the chance to do it. And tonight he gave himself that chance in every way possible. He also made some really, really good passes that weren't rewarded with assists. The team in general, again, you don't just waltz in and get a 98-75 victory. The team obviously played good basketball together, but the team in general, along with Dieng, made really good passes, made really good decisions, made really good reads. But you saw what Ous was able to do when he just plays with that little bit, of elevated confidence. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cam Woods or somebody that, this coaching staff was around, Ous all of last year for the Blue, because for all intents and purposes, Ous played for the Blue last season, the entire way. And if they got in his ear a little bit, it was like, hey, you can fix all this with the stuff that we did in the G League. There's really no difference to what we saw last year to what you can pull off tonight. And he went out and did it. So you've got to give credit for him bouncing back. And you can talk about the Summer League. You can talk about the competition. You'd much rather, right? You'd much rather look good than bad. And that's not exactly a hot take. You can only play, the schedule in front of you. And it's not exactly like they played the, Michael Jordan Bulls last night whenever things didn't go as well. And I think that for these 3 guys who you're really evaluating, we talked about at the top of the show who was out for the Jazz, but who was in? You got 30 minutes of Cody Williams, a top 10 pick. You got 13 minutes of Bazley, who was a phenomenal G League All-Star last year and who has NBA chops and was a former first-round pick. You got 25 minutes of Kenny Lofton, a Summer League legend, if you followed the Thunder, especially the last couple of seasons. You got 15 minutes of Bryce Sensabaugh and 13 minutes of Isaiah Collier. For the 2 guys we're going to talk about next, we're going to talk about Jones and Mitchell next. Getting these high major guys, getting to play against high major guys like Collier, like Sensabaugh, like Williams, like Filipowski, like that in and of itself is a massive step forward, right? You got 20 minutes of Filipowski. So, yeah, I mean, they didn't play the Boston Celtics tonight, but they never were going to. And so you'd much rather them look good than bad in this scenario. And to Us's credit, he really stepped forward. Now we'll see what this means for him, moving forward. We'll see how much more he plays when it comes to how much more he plays in Summer League, if he plays tomorrow for the third straight night, how much he plays in Vegas, if at all. But this was a really good game from him. Coming up, let's talk about the two rookies who I thought showed incredible maturity on the court, who I thought won the press conferences afterward, and so much more. But first, I want to say right now, but our good friends over at Game Time. I love the Game Time app. I think you should be using it today because Game Time is perfect for buying tickets. So no matter if you're wanting to go to Major League Baseball games this summer, or comedy shows, or theater, or concerts, whatever you're wanting to go to, you should be checking out at Game Time because they have the last minute deals. You can save 60% on buying last minute tickets for sporting, concert, comedy shows, theater, and more. They have these flash deals where you save even more with exclusive in-app deals or select seats ahead of the game or ahead of the concert. They have zone deals, all-in pricing, which I love. I love the fact that you toggle all-in pricing and there's no surprise fees. There's no, I think I'm paying this price on the actual screen. Then I go to the cart and it's way higher. None of that. It's all-in pricing. And I also love view from your seat because if you're traveling to venues you've never been in before, you want to see what the sightlines are like and what you're going to be getting the bang for your buck. So check it out today at the Game Time app. Create your account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create your account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Go download the Game Time app today, create your account, and get last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Folks, let's look at these two rookies, and let's talk about them just as an entity, and then we'll break down their games as well. First and foremost, I think what you see from them is that the cost of drafting kind of quote unquote older prospects, where we typically look at guys that are like 22 years old and we say, well, that's it. Like you'd rather go swing for an 18-year-old who's like extremely raw and all this other stuff. The value of not doing that is getting two guys who you really believe in can play. And right now, that's really hard to envision. Because we can sit here till the cows come home and rattle off player after player after player who you would project to play ahead of Dillon Jones and Ajay Mitchell, because this Thunder roster has made sizable improvements, right, to a team that won 57 games last year, playing 10 to 11 guys. So you look at the cost benefit of like adding Hartenstein and adding, Caruso. You've really only lost Josh Giddey and Gordon Hayward. So those two guys fit in those proverbial spots in the rotation, obviously playing more minutes, but those two guys fill in the spots of like the number of players you want to play. So you want to play the starting five, whatever that ends up being for the sake of this exercise. Let's call it Caruso. Let's call it Shai, Caruso, Dort, Dub, and Chet. Then you get into this mixture of Wallace and Joe and Wiggins, right? And Jay Will and Hartenstein. We're already up to 10 right away. We have not even mentioned Kenrich Williams. We haven't mentioned these two rookies. We haven't mentioned Ousmane Dieng. Right? So it's hard right now to see the vision of like how these guys get on the floor because this team is so good. But when you dig a little deeper, let's just look at this season first and foremost. Last year, the Thunder were supremely lucky with injuries, and you can never predict them, and you, of course, never hope that they happen. But the reality is, playing an 82-game season, you might deal with a twisted ankle. You might deal with getting elbowed in the face. That's unpredictable and can happen anytime. It might leave you sidelined for a little bit. You can never know what's going to happen. So just like that, you could be needing someone to step up, and these two guys are pro-ready and mature and versatile to fill in a bunch of different areas, on-ball, off-ball, and defend multiple positions to where they're able to slide in and do that. The deeper level is not only are they ready to play right now, but the blend of still having upside, still having ways you can grow them this season with the blue, But not needing 3 years to get to the NBA level allows you to walk that fine line of, yeah, you're paying Hartenstein. Yeah, you're going to pay Caruso. You're going to pay Shai. You're going to pay J-Dub. You're going to pay Chet. This team gets expensive fast, and the currency of this team quickly will become cost-controlled talent. And you need that cost-controlled talent to be there, be ready, and be able to make an impact when that time comes. And I think that what you're seeing in Summer League is that these two guys are extremely mature and can play in any environment right away. So you feel good about them potentially getting on the floor. And now when you look at them as individuals, right? The first thing that stands out is Dillon Jones. We raved about Dillon Jones for the entire first segment yesterday, talking about how the box score really didn't do him justice. Didn't do him justice of how good he played. He was awesome yesterday. And then today, he goes for 21 points on 7 for 8 shooting, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. What we're going to highlight today, you should go back and listen to yesterday's show to get more of the X's and O's and the just actual insight of how he plays on the court. But what we're going to talk about today, similarly to the maturity, is like what he brings to the table that you can't quite quantify with stats. One play that he had was like, he got the ball in the corner and he tried to drive on Sensabaugh. And I would have liked to see him take this baseline instead of popping out toward the elbow instead. But either way, Sensabaugh cuts him off and redirects him to the slot. And so he's back out in the perimeter, and Sensabaugh starts clapping in his face. He sizes up Sensabaugh and drills a 3 from Jimmer Fredette range. And then he chirps back at Sensabaugh after Sensabaugh had done that clapping. And his response to that play from Dillon Jones, according to Joel Lorenzi of the OKC, quote, I don't want to say I didn't know. I don't want to say I don't know why he was clapping. I guess he thought he played good defense or something, but he did it, and I just hit a tough shot. I'm not even a trash talker, honestly, if it was more in the moment, I guess. Now, when you compare that to what AJ Mitchell said, which AJ Mitchell said, according to Joel Lorenzi, quote, Dillon's petty. So Dillon Jones is petty. So if you get him going, he's going to try to get a bucket. And that's what he did. That's how he is. He's a bucket. That certain edge, swagger, Juice says he's on the all-juice team, that he brings to the table, that dog that he brings to the table is something that you really want to see. Because like the whole dog thing was like last year's team's rallying cry. But when push came to shove, they could have used a little more edge. They could have used somebody to get more physical. They could have used somebody to set a tone. Dallas did a much better job of that in every way. And Dillon Jones plays with that sort of edge that you really like to see. So he can say he's not a trash talker, petty, edge, whatever you want to call it. You got to like what Dillon Jones is bringing to the table. And then another off the court thing, again from Joel Lorenzi, he was asked about Ousmane Dieng and getting blocked by Darius Bazley twice. And I found this to be supremely interesting. Dillon Jones said, quote, it was dope. Small sample size, but if he tried him 8 more times, I think he can catch him. I'm glad he tried him. He needs to try him again. He's going to have more opportunity to try him, and I'm going to keep hyping him up and telling him to do it. That was the end quote. I think that embodies the leadership that Dillon Jones has. And he talked about this a little bit at his intro presser of like, being the guy showed me what a guy needs to do and what he needs to be and everything else. And using his experiences to relate it to other roles. And I think that you're seeing a guy who's a gamer, who is a student of the game, and who really cares about being the best player can be in every aspect of like on the court, as a teammate, as a leader, etc. A star in his role. And if I had to guess from the outside looking in, perhaps Dillon Jones has noticed that like, hey, the only thing that this 6'11" wing, ultra talented wing is missing is confidence. And so if I can in any way instill that confidence in him to make the team better, I'm going to do that. And so I just think that these things like really matter, and these things stand out, and you can cast them away with your supreme and superb and advanced analytics. You can act like it's just Disney storybook stuff, but I do think that it matters at least somewhat, even though you can't quite define it. So I really like what Dillon Jones brings to the table in this way and in this role. But again, we got really X's and O's yesterday about Dillon Jones, talking about how he manipulates the defense and how he handles scram switches defensively. So if that's more your speed of what you want to hear about Dillon Jones, please go back and listen to tomorrow's show. We'll do it again, the next time he plays, if it's tonight or whatever. But I just felt like today we could take the time to talk about that other stuff from Dillon Jones. Coming up, we'll talk about Ajay Mitchell. We'll talk about the very fun day ahead in Thunderland and a very, very special topic to my heart. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Folks, whenever you look at this team and you look at what the Thunder were able to pull off today, Ajay Mitchell is up there as one of like the biggest storylines of the game. And I thought that what stood out about Ajay Mitchell the last 2 days is that in game one, I didn't think he started out too hot. I thought he struggled to handle, ball pressure whenever he was on the ball. I thought that at times he looked out of sorts. But that time where he looked out of sorts was short. Short. From the second quarter on in that game, he was really good. And from the word go in this game, he was really good. The ability to flip a switch and settle into a game quickly is one that you're going to need as a player that is going to play his role. We're going to have a finite amount of opportunities. You've got to snap and clear some of those bad possessions really quick and get back on track. And I think that he does that very well. I think that tonight's game really showed you, his potential value. Sure, he went 0 for 4 from 3. I don't really have concerns about the shot coming through, honestly. He went 5 for 9 overall, 11 points, 10 assists, 2 boards. He read the floor with ease. He got to the paint with ease. I mean, this was a classic drive and kick game from Ajay Mitchell. And stop me if you've heard this before, but the Thunder absolutely love drive and kick guards. So this is the basis of what they do. Probing his way to the lane and getting the advantage is exactly what the doctor ordered for this team. And you watch the way that he can whip the ball across the paint and whip the ball to dump off passes. There was more than a few instances of like, he gets to the low block, pump fake, gets his defender in the air, dumps it off to Kyler Kelly in the dunker spot on the opposite side for an easy slam. You've seen chances of him driving at the rim, getting his defender in the air, then whipping the ball out to the corner for an open three. Being able to manipulate the defense is huge. And you saw opportunities in this game where he also was like a quarterback, where like he's looking off the defense and staring down his pick and roll partner. Defense tries to jump it and kind of reroutes the ball to the 3-point line. Stuff like that is very high-end stuff. And that was one of the areas that Sam Presti talked about in his excellent interview of like, you can win in the regular season with the dribble, you got to win in the postseason with the pass. The passing stuff, the table setting stuff, that was an area that the Thunder struggled in a little bit. As much as you bemoan another guard, and that becomes like the biggest talking point about this Thunder team. Sure, they had plenty of G's in that position column. They didn't have a ton of T's, table setters. Ajay Mitchell was able to do that the last couple of games and do it really well. So this team, it is just fully loaded. Again, they're 10 names deep before we talk about the draft class, and I've been vehemently impressed with this class so far. Oh, no, yeah, they won the G League championship last year. So even their G League team is going to be an embarrassment of riches next season. So it's just really fun to watch. Now, we cannot talk about this game without discussing one of the biggest points in it. And that was Darius Bazley. I mean, what a game from Bazley. That was the best 1-for-3 game I've ever seen. That was the best 1-for-3 game in 13 minutes on a July 9th night I've ever seen. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. 2 blocks, more blocks than fouls, 2 blocks, 1 foul, which people forget he did for a whole season one time. 70 blocks, 68 personal fouls. Bazley was he was too good. He was too good for Summer League. They benched him in the second half just because he was so good. And that's all you can ask for. Bazley was just amazing. But this is going to be a fun day for the Thunder sickos out there who just cannot get enough basketball, who want to watch basketball year-round. Not only did the Thunder play their final Salt Lake City Classic game tonight, but that's at 6 o'clock Central Time. So after 6 o'clock Central Time, the Thunder play the Grizzlies. Then you roll right into Team Canada against Team USA. Whew. Watching Shai and Lou Dort play Team USA, who at this juncture, looks like it's going to be a fully healthy squad since Kevin Durant, who has a hamstring injury, I believe it is, or calf strain, one of the two. I think it's hamstring. That's going to be a ton of fun. Now, the third Salt Lake City game, I can't promise will be fun. I don't know. We just don't have enough information yet. The league does not put out official injury reports for Summer League, so we don't know. At some point, you're going to, I think, need to get some rest for these guys who have played back-to-back games and is now staring down the barrel of 3 straight games. What I would find interesting about tomorrow's game, and it could be in line for some funny business of like just an insane day from Zach Edey. If Zach Edey plays, the Jazz, as we mentioned, didn't play Hendricks, didn't play Kessler, only played basically 13 minutes. They rested their size for tomorrow. The Thunder only have 2 guys of size, like 2 true bigs, Kyler Kelly and KJ Williams, and they played a pretty significant amount both nights. So if the Thunder are at all needing to play small tomorrow, hopefully it's somehow not the Zach Edey minutes. That could be a huge night from Edey if he does play. So we'll see who all plays. We'll see what the situation is for the Thunder in the sense of resting and in the sense of making sure that they're prepared for Vegas, and then also we'll get to see Shai take on Team USA. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I think there'll be a ton of fun. In this game, Keontae Johnson was out with rest, as we mentioned. He'll, I assume, be back tomorrow since he was resting, sort of a way to manage your workload when you're playing 3 games in as many nights. You did play Jones and Mitchell and Dieng 24 and 26 minutes each. So who knows what that will look like tomorrow. But we'll be here no matter what to recap it all on tomorrow's show. So make sure you follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Styles. Make sure you follow SI Thunder. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.